Plaintiff Samuel Nelson rented an apartment to the defendant, and within 2 weeks, the police were called because she was allowing her ex-boyfriend to stay with her despite having a restraining order against him. Samuel claims he then learned that the defendant and her ex abused meth, and he's suing her today for rent and electric bills. Defendant Shelley Clemens Collins says Samuel is nothing but a womanizer and a pervert. Shelley claims after she moved in, she discovered peepholes all over the apartment, and Samuel often came into the unit unannounced, including once when she was in the shower. She's countersuing for emotional distress.
Start with you.
Well, sir, I've been a landlord for 30 years, and this tenancy has been a nightmare, one of the worst I've had. I met Shelley in August of 14. She came to me with a sob story how she had lost all of her belongings in a house fire and nowhere to go, desperate, needed a place to stay.
Came to you where?
At my apartment complex.
Okay.
I had a sign out front, I had an apartment for rent. So I felt sorry for her. I let her into the apartment. I did not do a background check. It was a big mistake. Within a week, I was getting tenant complaints about noise, arguing, and then August 30th, the police were called, and her boyfriend, this guy named Lamel, was hiding in her closet, and she had a restraining order on him.
To keep him in the closet?
He was hiding in the closet.
To restrain him in the closet?
No, he was hiding from the police. The police showed up, so the police...
Okay, I said that's a new one.
The police handcuffed him and took him away. That was on the August 30th. Well, that got my interest up, just who I had living in there. So I called her ex-employer, found out that her and her boyfriend, Lamel, probably started the fire because they were cooking meth, because they were drug abusers.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Is she still living there?
No.
Let me allow her to give some background, ma'am.
Hi, Your Honor. I should have known better than to rent from Sam Nelson to begin with, because he's a womanizer and he's a pervert. I first met Sam through not one but two of my family members who dated him, even though he's married.
He said he met you when you drove by and saw the sign for rent. You knew him already?
I got a hold of Sam through my family members.
And they told you all this before you moved in?
That he would be a nice guy that would give me a place to start over my life, which was what I was out to do. I had a fire in May of 2014 due to a candle that burst when it got too hot, not to drugs or any type of anything like that. There was a lot of domestic violence in my life at that time. I was in a bad relationship. My ex got out of jail. He came back to my apartment constantly.
How do you know where you live?
I don't know. That I don't know. But I did allow him to stay there a few nights, which led to more. I am proud to say I am away from him now and won't never go back.
Ma'am?
What you don't know, Your Honor, is that Sam had walked into my apartment with his key on the third day that I was in the apartment while I was in the shower. He would not walk out. Saw me, my shower door was open. I have evidence to show you where I found peepholes in the shower room, as well as, here you go, Your Honor, as well as he's walked into the apartment 3 or 4 times and said that he could do so at any time he wanted to.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Okay, well, okay. Judge for yourself, sir. I believe Sam uses his money and his power to take advantage of vulnerable women. He let me move into that apartment for $50.
Sam, you got peepholes in the bathroom?
No, I don't, sir.
I'm looking at a hole in there now.
I'm not that electrically inclined to install some type of peephole system.
I see a hole in there.
Sir, I also have a report from a cable installer that went up in the attic area and said there was no reason for those holes, as well as there's others in other apartments.
Let's see them. And so do you go in and out?
I also have letters from other tenants, Your Honor.
No, I do not. I always post on the
That's not true.
Do you recognize these holes in the wall, in the bathroom, in the shower?
Yes, I recognize that one. That is a nail pop from drywall.
The other one is the other one in the bathroom.
When did you discover these? Let's start there.
I was in the shower after about 3 weeks of staying there and was shampooing my hair and looked up like, what the hell is that? It freaked me out. I've got copies of my journal where, yes, I was into drugs at one time. I also got counseling for that, and I'm sober today.
Have you spoken to any other tenants? You
Yes,
weren't the
sir.
only
You
tenant
have a
there.
letter.
Any other female tenant?
Yes, sir. You have it with you.
Is she still living there?
Yes.
I don't want to mention her name. Sam makes me extremely uncomfortable. He's came on to me several times during the time frame he's told me I am not to have any male company.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
Also, he has come into my apartment several times without prior notice.
Yes, sir.
And I myself have seen the holes in the defendant's shower, and I am terrified of him. His sexual remarks have made me uneasy, and I have asked him several times not to disrespect me like that, and he has still made comments. Yeah. And you've never had a drug problem, you say?
I have, sir, yes. Yes,
Crystal
sir.
meth?
Yes.
How long ago did you stop?
I've been clean for almost 9 or 10 months. I'm almost a year clean.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I'm going to give credibility to that. I don't think that person must be on crystal meth too.
No,
if they're going to write a letter about their landlord, sign their name, and talk about their landlord is sexually harassing them, and give it to you, you don't even live there anymore.
Sir, when she found out that we were coming here, and I told her what the case was over, she said to me that she exploded in tears and said Sam has been doing her the same way. She's on disability, she owes him money, and he lets her pay a little bit each month as long as she stays single. It's just the way that he is. I can also prove that he was angry at me before my rent was even due because he was going to throw my clothes into the dumpster and have a cleaning crew come before my rent was even due, sir. I have text messages to prove that.
Let's see, who
And
are
there's
those
no
text
reason
messages
for it.
between?
They're between me and Sam.
Let's see them. Sir, you tell me
There's 3
about the
pages.
rent and the electric bills and
Yeah,
anything
the,
else you want to resume telling me about.
The rent's $415 a month, plus the electric service. I pay water. She would never get on the electric bill because she had a prior balance with the utility company, so they wouldn't let her get on the bill. So I was forced to pay it myself, make copies of the bill, and I would give her the copies and her back rent that she was due. And every 2 weeks on Friday, when I knew she got paid, I was knocking on her door trying to get rent and utility money. I am happy she's gone. I've learned my lesson about not doing a background check, and I have tenants.
Sir, I'm reading what purports to be text messages exchanged between the two of you, and you were discussing whether you were going to throw her things into the dumpster, evict her without judgment from the court, throw her things out. She tells you that she's going to tell you last time I talked to the courts, if you enter my apartment, I'll press charges. What is all this about, sir?
I did give her a 3-day notice several times during her tenancy. I did have the eviction going on, let's see, date in April. And then the day before the eviction hearing, she pleads with me not to go through with the eviction because she didn't want that on her record. So like an idiot, I filed dismissal on the first cause, which is the eviction, and she was going to meet me at the apartment at 5 o'clock to turn over the keys. Well, guess what? She didn't turn over the keys. So I texted her and said, how can I help you help yourself?
Yeah, you did say that.
She said, give me $70.
No, I didn't say that, sir. I
Yes,
said
you
the only
did. I'm reading it. You did.
No, I said the only thing keeping me from moving on is $70. He offered that. I never asked him for it, sir.
I understand,
I
ma'am.
had already saved up a
You
lot.
sound like a drug addict on there, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll move if you give me $70.
No, it doesn't say that.
Who says that?
Okay.
You did say it. Counterclaim for $1,000 is for what?
For the walking into my apartment while I was in the shower twice. You can see the picture, sir. My kitchen area was open to the shower. He stood right there and watched me showering. I had to kick the door closed for him to not see me naked, which he did anyways. He's absolutely an incredible person who takes advantage of vulnerable women, and that's all I have to say. I was a drug addict and probably always will be a recovering drug addict, but it gave him no right to do me like this.
You have evidence of the amount she owes, sir?
Yes, I do. I have $810 after deducting the damage deposit of $415.
I have pictures of the apartment as I moved out.
Record of the payments that she made.
How long did you stay after he saw you in the shower? How long did you live there after?
About 6 months.
6 months afterwards. Ma'am, you come across like you con. I'm just going to tell you. That's how I feel. You're coming across, you're taking the game too far, and now you're coming across like you're con to me.
Okay.
How long were you on drugs?
About a year. I tried crystal meth, and I was hooked on it for a year before I went to jail. I know. I'll never lose that stigma, ever.
No, I know when people are con to me and when they're not. I know how people talk. Judgment for the plaintiff, your claim is dismissed. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I don't have anything to say.
Well, I hope
Show you what power can do, though, doesn't it? He's got
gets
money
your
and
life
power.
together and
I have.
makes a recovery from this.
I have.
Plaintiffs Kaylee DePriest and Logan Tippins say they were best friends with the defendant, but they feel as though she's been making bad decisions due to her unstable relationship with her boyfriend. Logan claims the defendant and her boyfriend often have drunken physical fights, and they're suing her today for eviction fees and rent. Defendant Susie Squires admits that she's in a toxic relationship with her boyfriend and that their fights have turned physical. And as a result, she's made some poor decisions. But Susie claims the plaintiffs are suing for more than she owes.
All right, start with you all.
Your Honor, it's very difficult for Kaylee and I to be here today because Susie was one of our best friends. We've known her for 3 years. I met her through her ex-boyfriend, and Kaylee met her in high school. Susie actually introduced us two together, and that's how we became so close. Her and her on and off boyfriend's relationship is very unstable, which we think that's why kind of leads to some of her decisions today.
What do you mean? How do you know her relationship is unstable?
They argue a lot. They have even gotten physical with each other. I've witnessed them get physical, especially after drinking. I tried to be there, if she came for us for advice or anything, I try to be there for her.
Okay.
And just
Young
be the
lady,
friend.
you and your boyfriend get drunk and violent?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you stop?
Not sure, really, just a toxic relationship, and at my age, first love, it's hard to leave.
Okay. It's hard to stop drinking, dude?
No, actually, I was the one to say I'm okay with not drinking to solve the issue, and he wasn't able to agree to that, so.
Okay, so you're saying even if you stopped, he would keep drinking and getting violent.
Yes.
So you would just be a victim.
Yes.
All right, but instead, you want to be able to get drunk, and so you can be ready to defend yourself.
I guess so.
All right. I don't know how to advise you on that. You might be on to something. All right. You get drunk and violent, I'm getting drunk and violent. What do you want to tell me about your relationship with your former roommates?
Just like she said, it's hard for me to be here today because they were very close with me, and I looked up to those two girls more than anything in the world. And yes, they are telling the truth about my relationship and how I did make bad decisions. But at some point after knowing them, I felt like they were starting to be closer than they were with me, and it was like I was being left out of things, or I was just feeling uncomfortable, kind of, and I think it was because of my actions, but my best friend should be my best friend no matter what.
Did they ever impress upon you to stop living the destructive lifestyle?
Yes.
All right, and did you stop it all?
Sort of and sort of not.
Okay, and did your lifestyle affect them at all?
Yes.
And so since they don't let your destructive path affect them, you say they're not really your friends.
Yes,
That's
sir.
your rationale? Mm-hmm. Okay, and a lot of people think like that. Drug addicts feel like that. They feel that, many of them, they do. Mama put them out because you're stealing every TV, you're stealing everything that's not nailed down. Mama, you ain't sticking with me. I know I come here, snatch your purse, and run with your money. You shouldn't put me out if you're my mama. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't be stealing from me. That's why you shouldn't be taking my television, taking my stereo, going in my purse, taking all my money, because I'm your mama. So, and unless you choose to go to rehab, you got to get out of here, because you're hurting me by what you choose to do. So you're hurting them by what you choose to do. So yeah, I'm distancing myself from you. And in a minute, you're going to have to get out of here. And that sounds like what happened. You're suing her for eviction fees. Tell me about it.
We signed a lease for a 3-bedroom apartment on March 5th. It was the 3 of us, and she was there for 2 months. She sent me a text around the week of May 22nd saying that she felt like she should move back in with her mom and possibly start school, which she hasn't started school yet. Her name is still on the lease today, and she still has the keys and everything. We got an eviction notice in July, and we appeared in court, which she agreed to pay her 1/3 of rent and also 1/3 of the late fees that were accumulated through that time and the attorney fees. And we feel that she is still responsible for her 1/3 of rent as long as her name is on the lease.
Ma'am?
Whenever I sent Logan the text, it was because I had lost my job at the time, and I wanted to move home to go back to school, and my mother's rules were, if you want to go to school, I will pay if you live in my home. Well, it turns out my mom was in another situation herself, and she wasn't able to pay for me to go to school, and I now work a job.
What about a grant?
Sir?
Grant?
I actually have I have a grant from the school, but I haven't put it like into any kind of process using it.
So why?
The way my life is right now, I don't think that I'm
What's wrong
able
with your
to
life?
be in school. Dealing with all this and working a new job, still completely stressed out. I'm not stable enough.
Stressed out about what?
Personal things.
She's still
Okay.
dating that guy.
Sounds like she is. But young lady, it sounds like you're making up a bunch of excuses, which is what a lot of young people do. So I suggest that you eliminate the excuses. You ladies, did you go to school? Are you in?
I'm a full-time student, and I work for my dad as much as I can.
And pay your own rent. How about
I'm
yourself?
currently a server. I work full-time to pay for the rent.
Okay. So why did you leave them? Stuck with the bill.
Lost my job at the time mainly, and because of
The job
how our
that I got you.
friendship was
How
going
did you
down.
lose it?
Had a disagreement with the manager one day, and honestly, I did quit. I was young.
You quit?
She called
You
in.
quit your job?
Yes.
You quit your job and left them holding the bag.
Yes.
Why? You
She
think
got
that was
fired.
fair?
I was 18.
She got
and
fired.
young and dumb.
And you talk about how they're not a friend to you. You're a friend to them? Quitting your job and sticking them?
I wasn't
With the
at that point, but because there was reasons why I wasn't, I had people telling me how fake they were being to me.
I
and
wish I could tell my bill collectors they're fake. And so therefore I'm not going to pay you. I'd have saved a lot of money. You got my point. You left them holding the bag, ma'am, because you weren't considerate. So sounds like they're a better friend than you are. They didn't leave you holding the bag. You left them with how much debt? $4,578. Do you think you should pay? If not, why?
I do agree to the $970, but the only reason I do not agree to the remainder of the lease is because I attempted to find them a suitable roommate, and I just know that none of them would have been able to live with them or
You
normally
just know.
agreed.
Did they reject any?
I mentioned one time to Logan about a friend, but she has a child, so Logan didn't want a kid living.
Right, no.
With
Yeah,
her.
they need somebody like you. An acceptable roommate with the same status as you. You can't say, I found you a drug dealer to move in.
Definitely not.
I found you a lady of the night to move in, so you should be all right. Don't bother me no more.
Out of all of my friends, everyone already has their own plan in life, or
How
just
about
her.
putting up an ad and doing, did you do that? Put up all you
Think
young
about
people,
going that
all
far.
you do, young people, is deal with this social media. You're not doing your best on anything, young lady, I gotta tell you. You're not doing your best in trying to get your life together, going to school. You gave me nothing but excuses on that. All right, judgment for the plaintiffs. Congratulations. Keep working hard. Stay in school, and you get in school. All right? Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiffs.
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe if she shows progress in her lifestyle, we could renew it. As for now, I don't think there's a future.
As forever, no future with either of them, just because I was there for Logan and her toxic relationship. And when she put her hands on, when he put his hands on her and all of that happened, I was a friend. No matter what happens in life, they were supposed to be my support and they weren't.
Okay, but you were supposed to support us too with rent, and you just
I
left us
understand
hanging.
that, but as for a friendship, I would have never done that to either of y'all. I don't care if y'all left me 15 grand in debt.
We
Would have
just
never
don't
done
have
it.
that kind of money.
Would have never done it.
Plaintiff Joseph Radamak rented a room in his home to the defendant, and he says it was a huge mistake. Joseph claims the defendant is a drunk, and he fought constantly with his girlfriend, who busted his nose with a 5-pound weight. Joseph suing for damaged property and rent. Defendant Brian Johnston says Joseph is the drunk, and he not only broke a table when he was intoxicated, but he also jumped off a roof into a 4-foot pool after a night of drinking. Brian says Joseph is suing for more than he owes.
Start with you.
Well, I've been renting a room out for about 6-7 years, and eventually rented a room out to this gentleman and haven't seen anything like this man before. He's came into my house, disrupted my house. He's constantly after work drinking, and even when he has his son over on Sundays, he'd be passed out on the couch or in the bed, and I'd take care of his kid during that day. He'd have his girlfriend over, Dee, and he would drink and he'd physically fight where I had to call the police on them 4 or 5 times. It got so bad that they were out in the middle of the street boxing with each other, physically hit each other, disturbing my neighbors.
Yeah, now that's not funny if the man was hitting his woman.
Not true.
Let me hear from you. Give me some background.
Yes, sir. I moved in approximately about a year ago. The man is drunk every single day.
He is.
Joseph, yes. Every single day, very controlling freak. I mean.
And he says you're drunk often.
Yeah, that's what he says. But
are you drunk much?
No, sir.
Often.
I was, yes, sir.
Until when?
Until he got busted for drunk driving without a license and no registration, no nothing like that, and he spent some time in jail for that.
How
I was
long ago
staying
was
at
that?
my house.
How long ago was that?
Last year, Memorial Day weekend.
When was the last time he got in trouble for drinking?
He just ain't been
Right
caught
there you
yet,
go,
that's
my
all.
honor.
You have something to say?
Yes,
Stand
sir.
up, ma'am. State your name.
My name is Deanna Hoffman, and I did live for a short time at Joseph's. And he would drink a fifth of Southern Comfort a day, chased it with Mountain Dew, straight out of the bottle.
Not true, Your Honor.
He gets drunk, he falls down, he doesn't remember from day to day what he does.
Not true.
He has crashed his truck. I have seen him jump off the top of his house into a 4-foot pool.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Yes.
And injured his back.
Yes,
There was
how?
4
Quite
witnesses.
Pretty
frequently.
stupid.
There was 4 witnesses.
Sir, they're very descriptive. At least she is. She's very descriptive, very concise with her testimony. I don't think I couldn't even make it up that fast, and I talk quick.
Well,
And I got a vivid imagination.
She's
huh?
had practice on that because that's what they've been trying to say ever since this case has been brought to court, Your Honor.
Okay, you brought it earlier to a different
Yes, I
small
brought it to
claims
a
court?
small claims court, and it was
test.
brought here.
Okay, and they've rehearsed that pretty well. They've said
yeah.
it so much that they believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you look like you do take a little more of a nip than him.
Yeah, right. Sure do. Didn't jump off that roof, though.
You say, but you
I wouldn't
ain't
be
jump
jumping
off
off
the
a roof
roof.
that's 30 foot in the air into a
Well,
4-foot pool
whatever
either.
the case,
But-
he's suing you all for damaged property and rent. So
Yes, sir.
he can drink enough to know you damaged his property.
Yeah.
That's
Go
right.
ahead, sir. Tell me what happened in the rent and the property.
Well, when I had my back surgery, I was living with some friends.
That's jumping off that roof.
Yep. No.
Where'd that come from? man?
That come from work,
Rough.
from overlifting. I ruptured a disc in my back.
Okay.
So I
Sorry
had
to hear
surgery
that.
and I stayed at a friend's of mine for about a month. When I come back to my house, I had a broken door, broken coffee table, broken chair, and he had a broken nose because she picked up a 5-pound weight and broke him in the face with it. I told him after that she was not welcome at my house ever again. About a month later, I'm downstairs sleeping. Them two are up there fighting and arguing. I wake up, come up to break the fight up, and told him she was not welcome. You disrespected me by having her into my house. I ended up writing out the eviction papers that night and handed it to him. And I called the police, and the police said they couldn't do nothing because she was in his bedroom and he was renting from me.
The police was right.
Yep.
You can't put the man's guest out.
No.
When he's paying you rent. So the rent, which month are you suing for rent?
We're suing week by week. He pays me $70 a week from...
which weeks?
Oh, January 30th to March 27th.
Sir, let me hear from you. First, about the damage to the property.
Not true, Your Honor. The door, yes, I'm responsible for.
Well, it is true.
Right, but what he was telling me that he had a spare door in his garage. And I told him, when you find the door, I would help him get it down and help him replace the door.
And if you never found it, then what?
He never further even tried at all to even find the door.
Okay, but it's not...
And then when he'd get all drunked up, then I didn't mean to interrupt, but when he get all drunked up, that's when it comes, when you going to get my door? When you going to fix my door?
No,
the coffee table he fell into, that's why he's got that split on his forehead, because he's so drunk. He was so drunk that he fell into the table. And then the table was broke because he sat on the table and the table fell apart.
That's because you and her threw each other in.
Right, yeah, it was just standing there all by itself, right?
Okay.
It was already broke.
You have any estimates for these, for the damaged property?
I got the estimate for
What about the rent, sir?
I got the estimate for the door.
Right, the rent, I do agree. Before I even got my first paycheck, he already had me in court for eviction.
Okay. And you sold me something for the door, but what about the coffee table and the chair?
They were used, and I could not find anything, so I estimated its value. I got some pictures of the door.
Estimated the value?
It's $100.
That he got for free.
Okay, we know the door.
Don't matter if I got it for free.
He's admitted to the door.
Yep.
So, the door, he's admitting to that for $400, but he's denying $100. That doesn't make sense. If he was going to lie, he would lie about the bigger item.
Right.
Well, I have my statement from my other roommate that...
They were there?
That Dee admitted to him.
Let's see it.
It's in the highlighted areas, Your Honor.
Ma'am, did you admit to anyone?
Your Honor, I was there when the door was broke because I was inside.
We know about the door.
Yes.
Did you admit to anyone about...
No, no.
Yeah, she admitted about the door. Then I noticed a chair. It didn't say Dee admitted that. Say Dee admitted about the door, did not admit the chair. All right, and you admit the rent.
Correct.
All right, so he's admitting that he owes for rent. He's admitting that he owes the $400 for the door. So you owe him the $400 for the chair and the...
The chair?
I'm sorry. You're right. You got your mind is better than us. You drinking less than me and him. That's right. Go ahead. All right, $560 for the rent you've agreed to, and you agreed to the damaged door, and I'm going to order you to pay, sir, $960. All right, that's my judgment for the plaintiff. $960.
With the rent, yes, I do owe that. As far as the door's concerned, it's a brand new door. I don't know why I'd have to pay for a brand new door, but...
There we go again. You can't be man enough to admit when you did wrong.
Plaintiffs Joyce Gaff and her husband Tim rented a house to the defendant and her husband. And he says the police were called to their home more than once. Tim claims on one occasion the police were called after the defendant and her husband had a physical altercation. And they're suing her today for rent and a loan. Defendant Destiny Bradley says she's a single mom of 4. And her husband is currently incarcerated. Destiny says she thought the plaintiffs were good people until they harassed her at work and caused her to lose her job. She's countersuing for harassment.
Start with you.
Okay.
Your Honor, on or about last year in August, we rented out our house to Destiny and her husband. We felt that from looking over at their application that they needed some assistance and maybe a new start. They had 4 young children. During that period of time, during the year, her husband was in and out of jail numerous times.
Did he work there?
I'm sorry?
Did he work at the jail? Doyle wants to know. That's a good.
Oh no, he was incarcerated.
A resident.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's where he is now.
Okay.
Also during that year, a couple of times the police were called to their residence. One time, the police were called because one of their younger children, 2 or 3 years old, was out on the streets.
Go ahead.
Another time, they were called because of the husband and Destiny got into a fight, and there was some physical abuse, and I think battery charges were pressed against him.
How much was the rent per month?
It's either $500 or $650, depending on how many weeks there are. It's basically $125 a week.
Okay. Before we get into the specifics of the rent and loan, let me allow her to give some background. Ma'am?
Yes, sir. I am a single mom of 4 kids. My husband is incarcerated.
Incarcerated often, as they say?
Yes.
Does he have a drug problem or something?
Yes, he does.
You ever been to treatment?
He's been to treatment, and
how many times?
I would say once. He went once.
And
he lost his mother.
How long has he been on drugs?
Off and on for years, sir.
And they don't order him to drug treatment when he's in jail?
No.
Well, that's one of the things that's wrong with the jail system. It doesn't make sense to keep putting people in jail who have drug habits. They come right back out if you don't order them to get treatment and in-house treatment, or don't give them in-house treatment while they're in jail. They're just going to do the same thing. Going to come back out, rip somebody else off, go back in, then you got to pay for them, cost us money, let them out with no treatment. They go back out, do the same thing, victimize somebody, go back in because they were drug addicts. They're going to stay in there, get their drugs in there for the most part. So, all right, I get the picture, and you got to stay home with the 4 kids. I understand that.
Yes.
That happens an awful lot.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your situation there. What else you want to tell me?
Tim and Joyce, they were good people. They were nice to me, and I will tell you that they were really good people. But then more stuff added on, and they pursued me to lose my job by them coming in.
I guess that's the harassment. We'll get into that.
Right.
But I'm glad that he said they were good folks, and people come in and they owe money, and they'll find everything they can to say something bad about the folks who have given them a break. We'll see how the rest of it goes, but so far, you're all right. You even got a pitiful look. That helps. So go ahead, sir. Tell me the specifics of the rent and the loans.
Okay. Basically, they started getting behind in rent in January, and we have a document here shows how much they paid each month and how much they got behind. And then also they called us in April, and they had a bed bug infection, and they couldn't afford to have the place exterminated, so we gave them a loan of which they agreed to pay back and signed.
Is that what you have?
Yes, $1,310. They agreed to pay $100 a week, of which we haven't received any money, but we went ahead and paid it for them, and they agreed to pay that.
All right. Do you deny the rent and the loan or not?
No, I don't.
You admit to owing that?
I admit to owing it.
You all seem so innocent, and it just sounds like the guy who's got you in trouble is this drug addict who's in and out of jail, getting evicted because the rent is not being paid, being sued over the loan, all of this, and you all coming in here having to deal with this. All right. How do they owe you $3,000 for harassment?
Sir, okay, so I told Tim that I would go back to the house and that I would clean it up, all right? Because, I did get along with them. I did have respect for them, all right? Well, I'm a bartender. So the day that I was supposed to go clean the house, I wasn't able to go to clean the house. So he could not called me once, but he called me twice as I'm at work, and I can't answer the phone, but I made sure I answered it just because, you know, I knew that he was upset about it. Well, I'm a single mom. It's hard for me to take my kids to go clean this house that's empty, like all of our stuff's out, except I need to get trash bags and I do need to clean it. And they just kept on going and going and going. And he came in once and told me that he was gonna sue my husband. And where's he at? I don't know. I had no idea where he was. You know what I mean? So I handed him $100 because I knew that's why he was coming in there. So that was the first time he came in the bar. Well, the second time, I've got evidence right here that I have voicemails from Tim. I have a text message from Joyce. On the day that she sent me the text message that I need to get a hold of her immediately, she comes into the bar, causes a scene, tells everybody, to all my customers, all of them, talks about how I'm a bad mom because I had to put locks on top of my doors because DCS told me to, so my son wouldn't get out. Makes me feel like a piece of crap in front of everyone, to the point I lost my job. And I have a witness here that was there that day. And
Folks?
Your Honor, that is not true. Destiny had called Tim and left a message that she was going to be moving. She wasn't evicted from the house. Mm-hmm. She was going to be moving, and agreed to meet him on the 16th. The message, she had called you on the 10th. On the 16th, Destiny had agreed to meet him at the property to do a walkthrough. We were both going to be there, and she did not show up. So he called just to see if she had been detained or what the situation was, and that was on the 16th. And he left multiple messages, and we have phone records to support that, just to find out what is your intention, when can we get the keys back, etc. She was not responding during the period of time with any calls unless she was at work 24/7. And on the 22nd, which was a Saturday, at approximately 2 p.m., I texted her just to say, we need to talk to you. We needed to get the keys. We needed to know that, you know, you are totally out. Once again, nothing. We didn't have a forwarding address. We did not know where she was, except for where she worked. So we had gone to the place of work to get the keys, and so that we could close that chapter.
All right, you got to finish the rest, though. You got to tell me the rest.
Of
when you got there.
What I talked to her, I asked him if I could, woman to woman, talk to her. And so the first thing that Destiny said to me when we walked in, was, you cannot be here, you have to leave. And so she said, the manager will be upset. And I said, if the manager's here, I will ask if I can just talk to you to get the keys back. So at that point in time, she just kept saying, you know, I know I owe you money. And I said, well, I'm not going to leave until I have the keys. And she turned over the keys to me then.
How about making a scene?
No, there was no scene. There was this lady and another customer close to where Destiny and I were talking.
I'm going to ask her to tell me what she observed. Ma'am, what's your name? You can remain seated.
I'm Pam Murphy.
What do you want to tell me? What's your understanding, your observation?
Well, I was just sitting there minding my own business, and then Joyce had come in and started talking with Des, and I didn't know what their discussion was at first, but she kept getting louder and louder and louder, and I told her, you know, this isn't the place to bring that up.
And that is not
she told me
Let her
not.
finish.
She told me to mind my own business, and everybody in the bar heard her go off on Des.
Yeah. And ma'am,
and then she ended up getting fired for it.
You do know that?
Yes.
What a tragedy here. And it's tragedy on both sides. But ma'am, you all knew the address. You could have sent a letter. But for you to go there and say, I'm not leaving, they cost her job. And she has a witness that backs up what she says about your behavior. She admits to owing, a victim of her husband's, is your husband?
Yes, sir.
Drug abuse. So I'm going to grant your judgment. However, I'm going to grant her. So you all going to owe her a few dollars. $3,000 minus $2,685.
$315.
So she's left with $315. You get yours, she gets hers. Have a good day.
Thank you.
We want to tell Destiny we hope that things improve for the sake of her children. That's for sure.
I do apologize. You guys are good people. And I hate that it turned out this way for both of us.